Well, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for being with us. We are continuing our studies on Volume 1 of Book of Heaven. Last week, we actually started reading the first introduction paragraphs of Volume 1, and we're going to be continuing our reading today of Volume 1. And last week, we ended up learning a little bit about the novena of the Holy Christmas that she had meditated when she was 17 years old. So we're going to be continuing from there. And we are actually starting at a paragraph where it says, I remained mute, all confused. And that is a couple of paragraphs, about 17 paragraphs in I believe, from the first paragraph on Volume 1. So I remained mute, all confused. I tried to be alone as much as I could. I confessed to him my weakness and asked for his help and grace to be able to do what he wanted, because by myself I could do nothing but evil. If during the day my mind was occupied and was thinking about people I loved, immediately he would reprimand me, telling me, "Is this the love you have for me? Who has ever loved you like me? Look, if you do not stop it, I will leave you." At times I felt myself being given such and so many bitter reproaches that I would do nothing but cry. One morning in
I
particular,
think I think this paragraph, I don't know if you were stopping in every paragraph,
I can,
that there
yes,
is something to say.
yeah,
Because I think this paragraph is very important because it shows how Luisa was going in everything to God, because he says here, I ask for his help and grace to be able to do what he wants. So this is something that we should do every day, ask for his help. And is a part of the list of to-dos that we should to have every day. And the other thing that makes me think is that he says that the love for him means that I should offer to him my nothing. And this is another important thing. But in the next paragraph, he will says how we should to do that. And it shows how Jesus was always face to face to Luisa, because Luisa says, he followed me, he reprimand me, he advised me, which give us a strong feeling that all these truths that Luisa wrote depend 100% from Jesus. I don't know if you have something to comment to, because every day Luisa was confessing her weakness, and I don't know if we do that every day to God too,
mhm.
and ask for his help in everything.
Yeah, that's very important to do
Mhm,
every day because
mhm,
she even
mhm.
says, I can do nothing without you but evil. So yeah,
Mhm.
we need to come with with our nothingness.
Yes. Mhm. If nobody adds something, you can go ahead.
So
But
one, mhm,
let's check because it is important that when we read, we
mhm,
look what we need to do, because it's
mm,
not just reading, it's to make it live. So to make it live means that I should to confess my weakness, recognize before God my nothing, ask for his help in everything I do. Mhm. Okay.
okay. So one morning in particular, after communion, he gave me a light so clear about the great love he had for me and about the fickleness and inconstancy of creatures that my heart was so convinced as to be incapable, from that time on, of loving anyone. He taught me the way how to love people without detaching myself from him. That is, by looking at creatures as images of God in such a way that if I received good from creatures, I was to think that God alone was the prime author of that good, and that he had used a creature in order to send it to me. So my heart would be bound more to God. If then I received mortifications, I was to look at them also as instruments in the hands of God for my sanctification. So my heart would not remain huffy with my neighbor. In this way, it happened that I would look at all creatures in God. Whatever fault I might see in them, I would never lose esteem for them. If they mocked me, I felt obliged, thinking that they were allowing me to make more gains for my soul. If they praised me, I received these praises with contempt, saying, "Today this, tomorrow they may hate me." Considering their inconstancy, in some, my heart acquired such freedom that I myself cannot explain it. I think this is important to know that what she's saying, that everything comes, the good, the bad, the indifference comes from God. Any experience that we have throughout the day in our lives.
And the tip that Jesus gave her, huh? That is how to love people without detaching myself from him. This is a big tip because everybody thinks that when we say look for your nothingness and abandon all your loves, that means that I should to abandon even my house. But he doesn't mean that. And here says what he means. That is that Jesus is in every person as he created us. And this is the Jesus that we should to see in the people. Starting from my husband, my kids, my neighbor, my enemy. That's why I should to love my enemy. No, because it's my heart that says to love him. No, it's because in my enemy, there is a suffering Jesus too. Mhm. Looking the creatures as images of God.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then
And
but
the other thing that
the praising at the end of the paragraph.
uh-huh.
Yeah, how there is also inconstancy in that praising, that we should receive it with contempt when it comes from creatures, souls.
And this is the other thing, to think that creatures are inconstant
Mm-hmm.
and that someday they say something good from me and the next day they will do a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that just from God, I receive all the goodness, the constancy of God versus the inconstancy of creatures.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you know, another thing that I was thinking is that in Ephesians 5, some Saint Paul says that there is a spiritual warfare. I don't know if you have read such a paragraph in the Bible. Do you have it?
I don't.
Because this is at the back of this excerpt of Luisa that that is not the people that is doing the bad to me. It's part of this spiritual war.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ephesians 6, excuse me, it's Ephesians 6, paragraph 10 to 15, if you can read it.
6 verses what? Verse what? 10?
10, 10 to 15.
Okay, Ephesians 6:10 says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Put on the whole armor of God so that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Is that the one?
Mhm.
For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers,
Mhm.
against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places.
Yeah. And in that God says that through some Saint Paul, that for example, if you have enemies or you are suffering from your relatives or the people that you love the most, is not because of them. It's part of the enemy who wants to make divisions. So if you think that God is in everything, even though they do bad to you, you will accept it, and little by little the things will be corrected as God wanted.
Mhm,
So this is important to know it too.
mhm. Okay, I'll continue. So when the divine master
Mhm.
freed me from the external world, then he put his hand into purifying my interior. And through an interior voice, he told me, now we are alone. There is no one left who may disturb us. Aren't you happier now than before, when you had to content many upon many? You see, it is easier to content one alone. You must consider as if you and I were alone in the world. Promise me to be faithful, and I will pour such and so many graces into you that you yourself will be amazed. So now he's working in her interior. So now that he has eliminated external distractions, I guess, he's going to be working on her interior, right?
Mhm. In her spiritual area, and thoughts, feelings, all of this.
Okay. So then he continued telling me, I have made great designs upon you as long as you correspond to me. I want to make of you a perfect image of me, beginning from the moment I was born up to my death. I myself will teach you, little at a time, the way you will do it.
Mhm. Somebody has a comment? This is an important paragraph because we think that everything we will do by ourselves, and we are pushing and feeling that I am not progressing. What else I should to do? I am inside or outside the divine will. And here Jesus says that I will do it little, little by little, he says. So it is important to remember that this is a gift. It doesn't depend too much on us. And the other thing that is important is that I want to make you a perfect image of me. And this is um, a, an operation that God makes in our souls to make us image of him. But let's see what he says from the beginning of his life in the earth to the moment uh, he was born to his death. So everything that Jesus lived, not to say suffer, but what he lives, he wants us to live too, not just for Luisa. But we should to remember that the sufferings were for Luisa the most because she was the third work of God, and that she was the one who will open the kingdom. Doesn't mean that for all of us we will be like Luisa, but we will be like Jesus, and like Jesus, one for me and one for Pedro, one for Gabby. We should not to compare each other, because God will work for any of us as he knows our souls.
Mhm. Wouldn't it be too much for a person if a gift of a divine, it's like a monumental change in somebody? It would be like if they had like a death in their family, or they had to move house, something like that, that is dramatic in their life. It would be hard for an individual to take it all at once, but if they have it little
To
by
accept it.
little, to accept it, but if they get it little by little, it's easier
Mhm.
to assimilate it.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess he will prepare you, okay? So he starts without even us knowing, and when the moment comes, he already put in your heart whatever you need in order to go through that situation, that difficult situation. So it doesn't happen overnight. So
Yeah.
and
That's right. And when we see at our life at the back, we understand why we were living such moments. Mhm. Yeah, Patricia.
Yes, this brings me back to the fact that I think I mentioned before that in our Father, in our prayer, to our Father who art in heaven, um, how God gives the grace, just the bread of His grace, just at the right time, not one day before or not one day after. So it just gives the grace just in the time that shows up the need, let's say, or in divine will, we know that we don't have anything, that we don't lack anything. So, and God being in one only act, he just consider, like he tells in Book of Heaven, yes, tells Luisa, considers everything is done. And here it says that I don't remember. I don't have the but mentioned right now. Paula, read that it would be multiple graces, or that it's gonna be just given, not multiple, but it was another word that Jesus tells us here.
Many. It
Right?
says many.
Many graces.
I will pour such and so many graces into you.
Exactly. And sometimes I because I see myself, when somebody comes and asks for some situation that show up, and I tell Jesus, I cut myself telling Jesus, hey, it's in your divine will, it's not mine, this situation, and just I can tell my nothingness. I mean, I can tell my nothingness, and just having that day, just a specific situation, just saying it's I'm here. I do my time, my nothingness, let's say, but it's just one at a time. So that little by little really caught me, little by little, like and Jesus told us that in the legal supper, right? That is there is so much to that I have to tell you, but you cannot get it now. It's too much. So just be patient with myself, and just one day at a time with God,
Mhm.
with Jesus.
Yeah. And well, he says there, I myself will teach you. Isn't he talking to us as well? I mean, he's talking to Lisa here, but he's also telling us, right?
Yeah.
That he will
Yeah,
do it
yeah,
himself.
that's, yeah. In other volume, he says, I am the only who will teach you. So that's why we are not going to schools. We don't have teachers. We don't have master except him. What we are doing is sharing the experiences, sharing the knowledge, but none of us is a teacher,
Mhm.
except him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I've heard a few people mention that they would like to have a spiritual advisor, but they can't find one. But here he's telling us, I will teach you. You don't
Yeah,
need
yeah, yeah, yeah.
spiritual
Uh,
advisors.
it's just like this. And in the Bible, I don't remember the book. If some of you remember, you can say it. He says that there will be a time where they will not need teachers, that everybody will know the things. And maybe this is the time. Without the maybe, this is the time.
Mhm.
We just read the book, and with his grace, we will understand little by little.
Mhm. Okay. All right. I'll continue.
Mhm.
And it happened in this way. Every morning after communion, he would tell me what I was supposed to do during the day. I will say everything briefly because after so much time, it is impossible to say everything. I don't remember for sure, but it seems to me that he told me that the first thing which was necessary in order to purify the interior of my heart was the annihilation of myself, that is humility. And he continued telling me, see, so that I may pour my graces into your heart, I really want to make you understand that by yourself you can do nothing. I am very much wary of those souls who attribute what they do to themselves, wanting to make of my graces as many thefts. On the other hand, with those who know themselves, I am generous in pouring my graces in torrents, knowing very well that they can attribute nothing to themselves. They are grateful to me, they hold it in that esteem which befits it, and they live with the continuous fear that if they do not correspond to me, I may take away from them that which I gave, knowing that it is not something of their own. All the opposite in the hearts which reek of pride. I cannot even enter into their hearts, because they are so swollen with themselves that there is no space in which to put myself. The miserable ones take my graces into no account, and they go from fall to fall, up to their ruin. Therefore, on this day, I want you to make continuous acts of humility. I want you to be like a baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, who can move neither a foot to take a step, nor a hand to work, but expects everything from his mother. In this way, you will stay close to me like a baby, always praying me to assist you, to help you, always confessing to me your nothingness, in sum, expecting everything from me.
Do we remember the last time that we were like a babies in a situation that we were facing?
Mm-mm.
How pride is with us always, huh? But he's working with us. He says humility is, I think, is the first step before before accepting, and after reading the truths, and you see, since the first books, he talks about humility. And I was checking in another book. I don't remember it was volume 6, that he says humility, and he describes what is humility for him. He says It is a flower without thorns. One places her whenever wants. No fear of being bothered or picked by this person. She does not prick or bother others. Thorns are given by one who has it. This was a beautiful phrase. Huh? Thorns are given by one who has it. So those who threw you thorns or arrows or whatever is because they have it. And you don't accept it because you don't have it. So humility for him is a flower without thorns. They are wounded. Penelope wrote in the chat, they are wounded, yes. So let's remember humility and how we should work with our pride. Huh? I'm talking for myself.
So pay attention to this, complete annihilation. So on a daily basis, we're going to be exposed to many things and where we need to exercise humility. And we need to remember to be like a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is something to put in practice every day.
Okay, should I continue?
And insist in what he says in the paragraph before that says, confessing to me your nothingness. And he says here that these people has no space in which to put myself. That means the space is full of everything except Jesus. And we should remember this too, that he needs all the space. In the volume 16, he says that he works with the nothingness, with the emptiness, and says that there is an emptiness surrounded our soul that is so big for God to live in that. In the creation, he works with the emptiness too, for us to live in the creation. But can you imagine how big is this emptiness in the soul that he says that it is for God to live in that soul? It is in the volume 16, number 5, the paragraph, I don't remember. But look it when you are at home, and you will see why he's always talking about emptiness and giving, trying for us to go to our total, if I can say like this, total emptiness, because it's for him to live. He says that he created us like this. So it's not impossible. It's just for us to put outside everything. But doesn't mean that we abandon the things or the family. It means that we look Jesus in everybody. If there is no other comment, we can continue.
Okay. I tried to do as much as I could to content him. I would make myself smaller. I would annihilate myself. And sometimes I reached the point of feeling my being as almost undone, in such a way that I could not work, nor take one step or even one breath if he did not sustain me. Also, I saw myself as so bad that I was ashamed of being seen by people. Knowing myself as the ugliest, as in reality, I am still. So as much as I could shun people, I shunned them, saying to myself, oh, if they knew how bad I am, and if they could see the graces that the Lord is giving me, for I wouldn't tell anything to anyone, and that I am always the same. Oh, how horrified they would be with me.
For Luisa, was like she describes that she annihilates herself, even she was in somehow isolated, even though people came for her for teaching sewing or visiting her or like this, but she had no a strong love for the people except for Jesus. Jesus was for her the center of everything. That's why she suffers too much when Jesus doesn't appear. Uh, um, because she was not a mystical. For her, when Jesus appeared was reality. And then when Jesus didn't appear that day, she suffered a lot because she has no other person with whom to talk and with who be more close than for him.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that it is for us. For us means look Jesus in everybody, that we will not abandon the world. There is no other comment?
Okay, so then in the morning, when I would go again to communion, it seemed that in coming into me, he made feast for the contentment he felt in seeing me so annihilated. He would tell me other things about the annihilation of myself, but in ways which were always different from the previous time. I believe he spoke to me not once, but hundreds of times. And if he had spoken to me thousands of times, he would have always new ways to speak about the same virtue. Oh, my divine master, how wise you are, had I at least corresponded to you. So at this point, she's still not bedridden, right? She's not
No,
confined to a bed.
no, not yet. This book, she wrote it years later that the thing had happened. So she is not explaining us everything like year by year. She's explaining as she remembers. But at this time, she was not bedridden.
Okay. And then the other thing she said is he would always he would have always new ways to speak about the same virtue. He kind of does the same thing in the Book of Heaven, right? When he explained to us the different ways, different examples.
Yeah, that's why when we are reading, we don't just stay looking in the book we are reading. Sometimes we are looking in other books to understand a little more because it's like an onion. The concept is in the first book, but other layer is in other book, and other layer is in another book. So that's why she said that he's spoken to me thousands of times in different way for the same thing.
Mhm.
And you see, she says, divine master. He is the master.
Mhm. At the end where she says, had I at least corresponded to you, is she saying that she thinks that she didn't respond to all the graces that were offered at that?
Yeah, and when Jesus explained to her how he suffered these 6 1,000 years without the humanity to give thanks for what he's doing, for how he created us, all the graces he's given to us, and all what he suffered in his life in the earth, on earth. She thinks that she's not, what she's doing is not enough to correspond him. Mhm.
Should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember that one morning, while he spoke to me about the same virtue, he told me that because of lack of humility, I had committed many sins, and that if I had been more humble, I would have kept closer to him, and I would not have done so much evil. He made me understand how ugly sin is, the affront that this miserable little worm had made to Jesus Christ, the horrendous ingratitude, the enormous wickedness, the harm that had come to my soul. I was so dismayed that I did not know what to do in order to repair. I did some mortifications. I asked for more from the confessor, but few were given to me. So they all seemed shadows to me, and I did nothing but think about my sins though clinging more and more to him. I had such fear of moving away, of doing worse than before, that I myself could not express it. When I was with him, I did nothing but tell him of the pain I felt for having offended him. I kept asking for his forgiveness. I thanked him for having been so good to me, and I said to him from my heart, "See, O Lord, the time I have lost, while I could love you." So I was unable to say anything, but the grave evil I had done.
I think you can read the next two.
Okay.
We can join the comment.
All right. Finally, one day, reprimanding me, he told me, "I do not want you to think about it. When a soul has humbled herself, convinced of having done wrong, and has cleansed her soul in the sacrament of confession, and is ready to die rather than offend me, it is an affront to my mercy. It is a hindrance to drawing her close to my love, because her mind is always trying to roll in the past mud. She always prevents me from letting her take flights toward heaven, because she is always with those ideas wrapped within herself. If she tries to think about it, and then, see, I no longer remember anything. I have perfectly forgotten about it. Do you see any rancor or shadow on my part?" I mean, that's what we've always been taught in the sacrament of confession, right? That he doesn't remember.
Yeah, but should be a good confession, meaning that we go with pain in our heart for make him suffering, and with all the intentions not to commit the same sin again. But you know that we are because our soul is not prepared, and sometimes we have passions in our soul that doesn't let us to be completely clean. But when we enter in the divine will, this paragraph take place in our life. That's why he says in excerpts later that don't think in the past, because when you think in the past means that you don't trust me. So that's why we should to follow or to remember what he says in this paragraph.
Are you referring to there's no self-reflection? There should be no self-reflection type? Is that what you're kind of referring to?
Yes, that's why we should not have self-reflections and remember our sins in the past.
Mm. Could that also lead to being scrupulous?
Yeah, because if we remember and we are thinking, "Oh, I did this, I did this, I did this," we go exactly on what you say.
Mhm.
That and he doesn't like the scrupulous people. Mhm.
No.
Yes, I want to, and when Jesus says here, I no longer remember anything, I have perfectly forgotten about it. Well, that brings me back to whatever Jesus tells Lisa constantly, on and on and on, do what I do, pray as I pray. So if he's telling us, I no longer remember anything, I need to do as he does.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and related to myself for starting, and so forth for my neighbor, for the person that is next to me. So that kind of brings me to, is these little parts. I no longer remember anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's just brings me do what I do, and that's what I need.
Mhm.
That's what we need to. It's shocking to me.
Yeah. When we pray our Father and we say, forgive our trespasses,
Mm-hmm.
means that he used the eraser, huh?
And
And
it's
so we
forgotten.
should to do with the people that offend us. I will not say the more near, but started with that.
Yes.
So make life the divine will started with this paragraph, and that we make life with the people who is beside us,
Mhm. Is
even
that,
though even they don't understand divine
yeah,
will. Um,
Yes.
you can apply to yourself, and I speak for my experience, and you will see how the things change, um, time after time. And that's why God says to us, do what I do. And as I said in our Father, because he is the one who gave us the Our Father. And
I
that's
think,
why he said that.
yeah,
Mhm.
I do think it's important to forgive,
Yeah.
and forgive every day, because it's not a one-time forgiveness. It's forgive the coworker for this situation, forgive your daughter, your son for this situation, forgive your, husband or wife, at
And
every day.
forgive yourself to start with.
True. Forgive yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if the Creator has the eraser and use it in your life, why we should to be punish ourselves with things that he has already forgotten?
Hmm.
But
True.
this is not something that we are teached. We were not taught about this before.
No.
So this reflection that we are doing now means that we should apply it to our life constantly, and turning to read the book number 1, the volume number 1, to not to forget, because now we read a lot of things that are important and we are not used to, and at the beginning will be hard for us to do it, but is the steps that he's showing to Luisa, and through her to us.
Should we leave it here then for
Yes, she
today?
will be living here for today. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot
So
to masticate there.
yeah, how you say in English, rumiate,
Rumiate,
like the cow.
yes.
Roommate.
Chew
Rumiate.
on,
Okay,
yeah.
and showing them the the chicken of the week. Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody wants to say something? No? Okay.
I want,
Okay, Pedro, go ahead.
it's a quick thing. So regarding what you were just guys discussing, so this makes me think like the memory it's been given us for something. So we don't use it to remind ourselves. So every time we need to remind ourselves, we need to do it through him. That's what he said on volume 11. So
Yeah.
every time we want to recognize ourselves, we need to do it through him. So that's what our memory is given for, not for just keeping it like going back to all things and useless things, but to focus
Yeah,
our
yeah,
mind
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and connect with the Father. That's the so the soul's I don't know how it's in English this term, las potencias del alma, the powers of the soul.
Yeah, the powers of the
Which,
soul is,
yeah,
is
one is
mhm.
memory. So memory is given us for connecting divinity
Yeah,
to
remember the
remember the
love
Father,
of God.
the love of God correctly.
Mhm.
That's why what the memory is given for. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
clear.
the point that you raise is very, very important because when we are remembering uh, the things or the bad things or everything in our life, we are not giving a space for the memory how it was created, because it was created by the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is exemplified by love. So it is, our memory is created for making memories of the things that God gave us, to remember his love, not to remember ourselves and what we were doing. If not, we are making ourselves an idol. Mhm.
Well, one more thing, whatever Pedro is saying, right? The memory, remembering. Here, God, divine Jesus is telling Luisa and telling us, let us think about loving and contenting each other. So just if he's forgotten, uh just he says, let us think like in our memory, right? Think about it, and just with my mind about loving and contenting each other.
Uh-huh.
So
But we don't think in the memory. We think in the intelligence.
in intelligence,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
for making those memories, right?
Mhm.
Loving and contenting each other. Thank you.
Well, Paula, say goodbye.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here, and we'll see you next Wednesday at same time.